Honourable members, good afternoon, Minister and staff of the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. A warm welcome to you all to this meeting on Thursday, the 30th of November. It has just gone 10:15 and I believe we are good to go. Just a reminder that we are currently also being live streamed and that there will be a recording made of this meeting as well. I welcome you on a very hot summer's day. A good friend of mine early this morning pointed out to me that the Boland will be warmer today than the Sahara Desert. So I doubt whether we can just ascribe that all to climate change. On our agenda today, we have the deliberation on Vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill B7 of 2023. I would just like the members online to first introduce themselves, and then we'll go over to you, Minister, and the HOD and the departmental staff. Honourable members, if you would be so kind, can we start with the lady first?
Good afternoon, Chair. Kayla Murray, member of the committee.
Good morning, Chair. Derek America, member of the committee.
Good morning, Peter de Villiers, member of the committee.
Good morning, Chair. Pat Maran, member of this committee. Good morning to the embassy and other present.
Good, thank you very much, honourable members, and thank you for joining us here today. We are also being joined by a number of essential support staff, Ms. Mshumpela, Mrs. Niekerk, and some of our IT staff as well. With that, Minister, a warm welcome to you. Would you perhaps just also record your attendance and then hand over to the HOD? Minister, I believe you may be muted.
Sorry for that. Honourable Chair, thank you. Thank you to the committee members. Just from my side, just to mention that our original allocation of 606,302,000 rand, which is divided between the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, 299,560,000 rand, and the Western Cape Nature Conservation Board, Cape Nature, 306,742,000 rand. And with that, I'm then going to hand over to the HOD to take us through the deviation. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Minister. You were quick out of the blocks. If I could just ask the HOD to just record his attendance, and perhaps if we could just welcome those of your staff members that have also joined us online, if you would be so kind to manage the introduction process. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, honourable members, Minister, CEO of Cape Nature and colleagues from the department and Cape Nature. I'll just do the introductions in terms of who's in the virtual room. Ahmad Bashir is acting Chief Director, while Ayub Mohammed is on leave. Ahmad is in attendance. Azad Said is acting Chief Director, Management Support. And then we have Catherine Stone, Director, Spatial Planning. Hussein Isaacs, Director, Climate Change. Gottlieb Arendse, Chief Director, Environmental Quality. And I'm just going down the sequence there on the list. Helena Jacobs, Director, Development Planning, Intelligence Management and Research. Johannes Fritz is CFO. Dr. Joy Liener, Director Equality. Karen Shippey, Director Chief Director Environmental Sustainability, and that is what I have on the list. Ronald Mukanya, Director Director Sustainability, and Salim Haider, Director Waste Management, and Tia Jordan, Director Development Facilitation. Natasha Davis-Wolmerans, Director Pollution and Chemical Management. And that is it in terms of the department. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Wuma?
Good morning, honourable members. As far as Cape Nature is concerned, I'm present CEO of Cape Nature, and with me I have our CFO, Mr. Mohammed Bayat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from the apology of Mr. Ayub Mohammed, I've also received apologies from Mr. Kubus Manzo and Advocate Charmaine Marie, who is a director. Mr. Munro is visiting municipalities and traveling at the moment, and Advocate Marie is also on leave. Thank you very much for that. Did we perhaps omit to welcome anybody? If you would be so kind to just raise your hand then.
Francois West, Chairperson, is also in attendance from the department. He's the RSIP Program Manager.
A warm welcome to you, Mr. West, and we're glad to have somebody from the regional socio-economic projects as well. Good. Thank you very much. And with that, Minister already spelled out the high-level changes. Can we then, as he handed over to you, Mr. Gerber, ask you to continue?
Thank you, Chairperson. I originally was going to go through the summary document that we've shared, but we've actually put together a short presentation. So I'm going to ask CFO Johannes Fritz to flag the presentation and to present that to the Standing Committee. Thank you.
Mr. Fritz.
Good morning, Chair and committee members, as well as the Minister and the rest of the colleagues. I'm just going to share the presentation quickly. So, Chair, in the adjustment estimate of the department, as the Minister already indicated, our original budget was 606 million. And it decreased with the adjustment estimate worth 18.649 million to 587.653 million. The net adjustments or the reduction of the 18 million comprises of the 17 million 253, which is made up of our rollover request of 970,000, which were approved. There is a small contribution in terms of our revenue retention of 47,000. From the previous financial year. There were also funds transferred from vote 12 of 9.236 million. This is in respect of the green economy ecosystem support, or commonly known also as GEES project, which were transferred from the Department of Economic Development and Tourism to the department. And then the department received an additional 7 million for the salary increases of the current financial year. Just in terms of the salary increases, our initial estimate for the salary increase was 14 million, but the amount that we received was only to the extent of 7 million. That gives us a net increase of 17.253 million. Our reduction in terms of the fiscal consolidation process in terms of the province was 26.595 million. And then in terms of realignment of projects, 9.307 million. That gives us a net reduction of 35.902 million. And if you add those two together, our net reduction is 18.649 million. Just in terms of the economic classification, when you look at the compensation of employees, as indicated, our original allocation was 241 million, and it increased with the 7 million that we received for the salary increases. And our adjusted estimate now for COE is 248.376 million. Goods and services, our original allocation was 41.768 million. It was reduced by 12.828 million to 28.940 million. The reduction was mainly in terms of reprioritization and the realignment of projects from 23 to the next financial year. Also, the rollover requests that were approved, the GEES funding that I mentioned earlier, and then the credits contribution for the reduction of the 12 million stems from the fiscal consolidation reduction. Our transfers and subsidies, The original allocation was 318 million.006. It was reduced by 12.915 million to 305.091 million. The greatest impact here is in respect of Cape Nature. The original allocation reduced from 306.742 million to 293.156 million, a reduction of 13.586 million on Cape Nature's allocation. There were also reprioritization internally in terms of leave gratuity and injury and duty claim that was processed, and then additional funding was made available to the Garden Route Biosphere Reserve. Our payment for capital assets, a minor adjustment there of 2,000 rand. So it went from 5,152 to 5,150, and that's basically due to the fiscal consolidation reduction. There is also a further adjustment for the write-off of debt within the department of 96,000. That gives us the total adjustment, as I mentioned earlier, of the 18.649 million to our original allocation. If you look at the program structures, then you will notice that the first three programs, they received additional funding, and the last four, there were net reductions on those particular programs, and most of them were in respect of the fiscal consolidation. Program 1, administration, were reduced by, or received additional allocation of 252,000. So the adjusted estimate now is 70.280 million. Program 2, environmental policy, planning and coordination. The original allocation was 21.323 million. They received an additional allocation of 5.078 million, and that was then adjusted to 26.401 million. The 5 million that's reflected for program 2 in terms of the adjustment, the bulk of it is in respect of the GEAS project, the money that was transferred from about 12 to this department. In terms of program 3, compliance and enforcement, the original allocation was 31.154 million. That was adjusted with 745,000 to 31.899 million. Environmental quality management, original allocation was 94.478 million. It was reduced by about 6 million. Actual amount is 5.952 million, with the adjusted total then 88.526 million. For program 4, those reductions, part of it was due to the fiscal consolidation, and there were some projects also that were cancelled during the year. Biodiversity management, original allocation was 320 million.129. That was reduced by 13.474 million to 306.655 million. The bulk of that reduction of the 13 million is in respect of the reduction to Cape Nature. Environmental empowerment services, original allocation was 964,000. It was reduced by 481,000 to 483,000. And that is in respect of a project that will be continuing into the next financial year, part of our realignment. Program 7, development planning. Original allocation was 68.226 million. It was adjusted but with 4.817 million to 63.409 million. Some of that reduction is in respect of realignment of funds for the next 2 financial years. So that is in terms of our adjustments and how it impacts on the program structures. Just in terms of the performance allocation, so the net reduction in terms of the 18 million impacted on, amongst other, the climate change project. So we had a project in terms of the 2050 emissions pathway for climate change. That project will not be completed in this year. We will initiate that project in the next financial year. We also tabled amendments to the APP in terms of a number of targets and indicators on program 3. One being the number of administrative enforcement notices issued for non-compliance with environmental legislation. They were reduced the target from 250 to 225. Similar also the number of completed criminal investigations that were handed or to be handed to the NPA for prosecution. They were reduced from 14 to 12. The number of compliance inspections conducted, those will be reduced from 395 to 370. The number of environmental building activities conducted, those will be reduced from 42 to 41. That is the teacher support project that will be transferred, or initially the discussion was for the Department of Education to continue with that project, but the project will not be done by the department. The first few that I mentioned in terms of the reductions, in terms of the targets, those were mainly because of the reductions for the travel allocation for the particular for program 3. Because of the reduction on those allocations, they won't be able to meet the targets as initially recorded in the APP. The number of SMME support interventions undertaken, that will be reduced from 1 to 0. And that is the Wastepreneur project. As mentioned earlier, this project will now be taken place in the new financial year. We also received in our original allocation funding for EIA higher efficiencies. Most of those targets will not be achieved. Amongst other, the EIA decision making, the initial target was to reduce the timeframes by 30%, similar for the 24G EIA decision making, also to be reduced by 30%. Those targets won't be met, so these are efficiency targets. They will not be met, and then also the decision in terms of school infrastructure, that target will also not be met. So that is, Chair, very shortly, the implications of the reduction of 18 million to vote 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to add, we were focusing on how to manage the impact in terms of our delivery for the citizens. So that was the primary focus, to protect our core service, our delivery. Our budget is very small, so we as soon as we have an impact on operational budget, then the things that require operational budget, like the site visits and the knock-on effect from the site visits leading to the the investigations and things that flow from that. So that's the effect that one sees in terms of this adjustment that has happened. We were looking at, and we have had to shift out projects to next year. So projects that we still will be undertaking, but because of the reduction this year, we will be undertaking that next year. And then, yes, we under pressure in terms of so we did there was the immediate cost containment and the expenditure management until we had more certainty of what the adjustment would look like. And then, yes, we are concerned because of we're only able to fill what's called the absolute critical posts. So although we have 215 vacant posts on our structure, and we had 80 posts that were in process, we are only able to, at this stage, there were 11 posts that were critical posts that we are still looking at filling, and the rest we still have to get certainty in terms of what the allocation will look like over the MTEF. So we're highly dependent on our professional staff to do this professional work. But yes, the budget's under pressure. We're taking all the measures with the Minister's leadership in terms of the core services to be protected. We obviously also, with the rest of Western Cape government, we're looking at the pressures at the service delivery risk across the Western Cape government. With that, Chairperson, just to ask whether Cape Nature, Dr. Omar wants to come in terms of the impacts in terms of Cape Nature, or any other information that Dr. Omar and the CFO wants to maybe elaborate on. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD, and through you, Chair. I think our reduction was well captured by the department. Just in summary, our original allocation amounted to 306.742 million, and we suffered a reduction of 13.586 million. The CFO, Mr. Bayat, will provide us with a summary as to where the 13.586 million come from. But just on a higher level, the EPWP conditional grant is included there of 436,000, infrastructure reallocation and prioritization amounting to 10.011 million, and then also, like the department, we have to manage our vacancies, and we are only filling critical vacancies at this moment. So if I may hand over to our CFO, Mr. Bayat, who will provide us more information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, CEO, and thank you, Chair. Yes, in terms of the reductions, we've taken a strategic decision that in order to incorporate these adjustments, our infrastructure projects that were still in the pipeline would have to be paused. Thankfully, in terms of the allocations for the outer years, those have not been reduced significantly. So all we would need to do is just the infrastructure projects from this year that we cannot do will roll over onto the next financial year. There are 3 projects in particular that will be now rolled forward into the new year once there is funding. And that's for the Demont Nature Reserve, which required a redesign of the accommodation facilities as well as our infrastructure management facilities at the reserve, which were quite old and outdated. That is still in the EIA process, so it's not a train smash that we do delay that. We're still waiting for EIAs to be completed. Then there's the Gamkas Kloof upgrades that will be paused until next year, approximately R1 million. And then part of our massive reconstruction of the Volvo Kloof Nature Reserve and the Volvo Kloof area. So a portion of that is currently underway, and a portion of it will now move over into the next financial year, in particular some of the accommodation facilities.
Sorry, can we just ask the Honourable Maran to mute himself? Honourable Maran, can you please mute yourself? Thank you so much. You can continue again. My apologies, Mr. Weyand.
No problem. Thank you very much, Chair. And that's it from me. Those are the bulk of our reductions that we've implemented for this financial year.
Good. Thank you very much. And with that, over to you, honourable members. Should you have any questions, I must say thank you very much to the department. It's been one of the most extensive presentations that we have had on the adjustments in the adjusted estimates for the different votes. I recognise first the hand of Honourable America, and then Honourable Murray, and then Honourable Maran.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Mr. Fritz, for the presentation. I think I could concur with the Chairperson that it was a presentation that was easy to follow and to connect the dots. So, Chairperson, the CFO mentioned the cost of employment that we received, 7 million. I don't know, I can't connect that statement with what we have in front of us, in the sense that to compensate for that 7 million increase in cost of employment, programs were sacrificed, certain programs, equally so, number of vacancies that were funded were not filled. So funds were moved around to make up that 7 million rand. And I think that this presentation and the one that we received earlier clearly set out, where that 7 million rand comes from. So perhaps, if you can just get greater clarity, because if you look at this department and what we've been shared with now, is we can see there's a direct link between the increase in cost of employment and the curtailment and sacrifice of service delivery at certain programs. So perhaps a clarity as far as that's concerned. And then, Chairperson, my second question relates to the I just want to just get it out here. Is it on page 184? And it also, is sort of listed on page 186 and 185, increase in audit costs that are on page 184, we see there's a provision for the increase of audit cost of 453,000. On page 185, another 63,000. And on page 186, a further increase of 85,000. Perhaps if you could just, give us a response as to where this sort of increase in audit costs come from. Was it not anticipated? Was no provision made for the costs for auditing purposes that will be incurred? And then thirdly, Chairperson, also on page 184, we have goods and services right at the bottom of 281 Rand that was moved the provision for higher than anticipated cost in respect of coastal management line project. Could we just get a little clarity regarding that particular sort of allocation and that movement? And similarly, I've spoken about the cost of employment, and throughout we can see how it has sort of impacted upon the delivery of certain sort of projects. Then on page 186, Chairperson, we have program is development facilitation, and we have the school screening site that was reprioritized. It's 841 million. It was shifted to other sort of service delivery outcomes. Similarly, we have in program 7 also again 77,000 Rand, 841,000 and 77,000 Rand, as well as 271,000 Rand. So all under program 7, it relates to the reprioritization of funds in respect of cancellation of the school's screening site project. And perhaps we can get a little more clarity into that particular provision, the school screening site. And then Dr. Omar mentioned about the reduction in the EPWP allocation of 437,000. And my question around that would be, will any of the existing EPW contracts be in jeopardy, because we know that the department or the entity offers a multi-year EPWP contract, and how will it affect this year service delivery. I'm going to stop there now, Chairperson, and I might ask a second round. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Honourable Medica. My apologies. I should have actually indicated beforehand that we hope to have multiple rounds, that members should try to curb the number of questions like you've just done. To you, Honourable Murray. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 questions from me. The first is, it was noted that there was an expense related to cases that were sent to the MPA. If we could just get more details around the nature of the cases and the costs incurred. And then secondly, Chair, trying to read my own handwriting, I wanted to understand how the waste and Tropania project might be affected going forward as a result of budget cuts. Thank you.
Thank you. And Honourable Maran.
Thanks, Chair, for this opportunity. Chair, a reduction of 35.92 million, although we have received a new 17 million. Part of that, Chair, 7 million that goes to COE, Chair. But even with that increase, Chair, there's a reduction of 3.38 million that was for vacant post. We have now heard, Chair, that there's 280, I think if I've listened correctly, 280 posts, of which 80 were in the process to fill, of which, Chair, I think 11 critical fillings. We would like to understand, Chair, the exact amounts of posts that has been filled, because we have now heard there was 80 in process. How many has been filled, Chair? Also, we like to understand, Chair, previously the filling of posts, the problem was lie in front of the Premier's department. When it comes to the recruitment process, Chair, also like to understand, Chair, those posts, before we've now taken the decision to move this money from here to there, whether this program in the Premier's office still exists, Chair. That's the one. Then, Chair, also when it comes to Cape Nature, also a reduction of I think 13.856 million. Some of those are vacant posts, Chair. Just to get an understanding, Chair, how many vacant posts there in Cape Nature is, how many of those posts has been filled, Chair. And Chair, we like to understanding, besides now the compensation of employment, Chair, the issue of vacant posts not filling comes for a couple of years now. In each year, it differs from reason to reason, Chair. We'd like to understand, Chair, what is the actual reason why these posts are not filled on a yearly basis. Then, Chair, the projects, the infrastructure projects that will suffer. We have heard now the 3 Volvo Kloof, I think Gamkas Kloof, and then also the Mont, Chair, that will be postponed for the next financial year or the year after that. But for this year, Chair, that was budgeted in the main appropriation, the value of each of these projects, Chair, how much was budgeted for? I haven't looked at it yet. How much was budgeted for each of these projects? And whether we can get it in writing from the department, from Cape Nature. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Honourable Maran. I believe some of those detailed questions we may have to transfer to our resolutions, but let's see how far we can get and whether you will be satisfied with the responses in the limited time available. Just from my side, on the one hand, I must say I'm very sorry to see the reduction in targets, particularly on the compliance and enforcement side, while on page 198, the budget for compliance and enforcement is somewhat increased, although I think that increase is unfortunately have been eaten away by the cost of employment increases. The second one is a very interesting thing that I think the Honourable America remarked on the audit fees. And I think, honourable members, we should see if we can't find a forum where we can ask that the audit fees are also reduced. If there's to be a saving all around, then surely the Auditor General should also look at lowering their audit fees, because it seems to be one of those non-negotiable invoices that you just receive every year. But I would love the department's response to that. And then in terms of, to you, Dr. Umar, many of the flood damage that Cape Nature suffered was uninsured. And I'm talking about roads, infrastructure, low-level bridges, and so forth. So this reduction of 13 million comes on top of the additional expenditure, or are you expecting some assistance from, disaster funding? And then lastly, the EPWP program of particularly Cape Nature is such an important one. It was launched originally by the national government as a poverty reduction program. And I do know from my interactions at the various reserves of Cape Nature that those people are extremely grateful, although these are not minimum wage related amounts that they receive, but they are just so grateful for the opportunity to earn and to feed their families. So please, I think it was also the Honourable America that asked about the EPW program and whether existing contracts would be affected by this back. But I do believe that it just shows that when government finances are mismanaged and when the economy is not growing as it should, that the poor is eventually the ones that suffer most. So please, if you could just, Mr. HOD and Minister, between you, just decide who will be taking the responsibility for responses to which of these items raised by the members. Over to you, First Minister. I don't know if the minister's dropped off. Then over to you, Mr. Gerber.
Thank you. I'll ask, in terms of the different directors are here, so I'll ask the CFO to come in terms of the cost of employment, the wage matter. Just to say that we are not allowed by National Treasury to budget for the cost of living, the wage increase. That's the National Minister negotiates and decides that after consulting with the National Minister of Finance. And then the understanding is that whatever wage increase is agreed determined by the National Minister, that would be allocated to the provinces. And of course, this year, the indication then was for national that they will not be making that available. So that's then the shortfall that we had. That I'll ask the CFO to come in on the matter. Our shortfall was more than the 7 million. The 7 million was simply Treasury, Provincial Treasury, assisting with that pressure by giving us that allocation. But we had to, across the rest of the budget, make up the additional shortfall in terms of the wage agreement cost implications. So yeah, I'll ask in a minute in terms of the coastal management lines, Karen Shippey as the Chief Director to come in on that question by Member America, and Tia Jordan in terms of the school screening sites question, just to provide some of the detail there. So let's start with those responses. CFO on the cost of employment, and to highlight the difference between posts that we have on our establishment, but many of those not being funded, and then posts that are on the establishment and that are funded. And those are the only posts then that are then considered in terms of the recruitment processes. And even then we had to go back in terms of not being able to what was originally funded, not being able to fill all of those. And as we said at this stage, the critical post has identified for that are now still funded to be filled are at this stage then only 8 posts. It was 11. We've already moved forward on 3 of those. So there's only 8 in terms of the critical post, in terms of where we're at this stage. CFO?
Can I just, when Mr. Fritz responds, Mr. Fritz, obviously the members of this committee also serve on a number of other committees, and the problem in this department is the same as in the other departments. So if you could be succinct in your response. We are unfortunately under time pressure, and I would love to give the honourable members a second round. But over to you, Mr. Fritz, then.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so actually effectively responded to the greater part thereof. When we initially became aware of the situation in terms of reductions to the provincial equitable share, the department took a decision to hold back on the filling of vacancies until the position of the funding becomes clearer. At that particular stage, we had about 80 posts that were in a recruitment phase. And as mentioned by the accounting officer, at that stage, we could only accommodate 11 posts of that 80 to fill. So when we became aware of the reduction or the potential reduction and we hold the post, the salary increase at that stage were in the region of 14 to 15 million that we had to accommodate. Through our engagements with Provincial Treasury, we were then successful to get off that at least 7 million. And the other shortfall were made up by not filling those posts or holding back on the filling of those posts. So that is on the COE position. It didn't necessarily impact on the projects in itself, but the impact is on the staff members that remain to execute those projects, if I can just add that. Thank you, Chair.
Back to you, Mr. Gerber.
Thank you. So that's in terms of the cost of employment matter. And then maybe also CFO in terms of the audit cost matter. That is a matter that we're continuously dealing with, and we have raised this with the Auditor General in terms of the audit effort and their breakdown of their costs. And yes, as the pressure is on the budget and in terms of our clean audit outcomes for the audit effort to also be reduced. We've been unsuccessful in terms of those engagements with the Auditor General, but that engagement is ongoing. And yes, in terms of the current financial position, we will be asking the Auditor General to consider the reductions that they are able to make. CFO, in terms of the audit cost, if you want to add anything, and then we'll go over to Karen on the coastal management lines and Tia on the school screening sites.
Thank you, Gerrit. Yeah, together with the audit committee, as actually mentioned, the discussion with the AG continues in terms of the reductions. Bearing in mind also the clean audits obtained by the department. So there's expectation from our side that the costs need to be reduced, but this discussion is ongoing. So within the original budget, we could only accommodate funding for audit fees of 3.1 million. Our current expense already for the year up to the latest date now is that we spent 2.945 million of the 3.1 million. The AG is in all likelihood going to start towards the end of January, February, and March. They will be here, and we will need to accommodate the costs for that period within the current budget. So the 3.1 million is insufficient to make good for the expected invoices to be received from the AG. As I said, already our spending is at 2.9. So we had to shift funds to accommodate the extra costs. Thank you.
Karen, coastal management lines.
Thank you very much. So as we have mentioned in some of the previous meetings, we're obviously working on the coastal management lines. We've undertaken all the scientific work to determine where it is safe and legally viable for us to be able to put development, or in fact to make sure that development is kept back so that the risk levels are lower as we move into a world that is warming and sea levels are rising. We're having much worse storms. In order to be able to make sure that those coastal management lines have legal standing, there are a number of projects that we've undertaken over the last few years to build how they are to be used in law and which laws. So one of the efforts that we've done is to create bylaws for the municipalities to adopt. However, the process that was introduced a few years back is that a regulatory impact assessment needs to be done on any regulatory tools that are used or introduced. So there's very little choice about doing it. If you want to actually introduce new laws or new regulations, you have to go through the RIA process. In terms of us taking it out to the market, we actually have, on a number of our projects, had a little bit of a bumpy ride because sometimes the budget that we have and the scope of the work are a little bit mismatched. And we found that the market came back to us with a higher price than the funding that we had available for that project. That together with relooking at what was being reprioritized across the department, we prioritized the RIA and therefore reprioritized funds into that program so that we could actually complete the regulatory impact assessment and move forward with that very important climate change and coastal intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Tia, on the school sites screening project.
Good morning, Honourable America. So in terms of the feedback on the school sites, annually the Development Facilitation Unit supports the Western Cape Education Department with screening of new sites as well as some of the existing sites. That is in the cases where they do want to extend their classrooms, for instance, or whether they want to erect mobile classrooms, or where they are planning for new schools. So essentially we're playing the role of a planning consultant or an environmental consultant in giving them advice. The problem with that is that it's often reactive. So we receive the applications from the Western Cape Education Department, and then there's a lot of pressure because they want to start with construction. So in order for us to be more proactive, we identified this project where we essentially wanted to appoint environmental staff members to assist us with the screening of all the existing school sites in the Western Cape. So that would have been about just over 2,000 sites. We wanted to do that in a desktop environment. So we were wanting to build a database of the school sites. We wanted to put that through a GIS process where we then screen out the sites to identify any environmental triggers and send out the environmental staff members to the sites where it was necessary to go and verify. Unfortunately, we have lost that funding to appoint the environmental staff members, and we can therefore now continue with the project in the original where we were going to assist the department. However, we are still continuing to support the Western Cape Education Department with any sites where they do need us to screen, but it will be reactive. Thanks. Thank you,
Tia. I'll then ask in terms of Honourable Member Mari's question, Ahmed Basir is the Acting Chief Director in terms of the question on the National Prosecuting Authority cost. And then Salim Haider, the Director of Waste Management, on the question in terms of the Wastepreneurs project. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, HOD and honourable members. With regards to the cost in terms of the criminal investigations, it's also up to in terms of the fleet services, so it's to conduct investigations. And that also has an impact on the site inspections that we have to do. Similarly, also with administrative enforcement notices as well. Site inspections have to be conducted to ensure that the notices are complied with, and therefore you might have to go out on site to verify, be it rehabilitation, or whether the lease transgressor has ceased activities on site, etc. So that's essentially in terms of the impacts it had on the reduction in the IPP targets. Thank you.
Those are also the cost to prepare the matters for handover for prosecution. So it's our operational cost, it's our cost for the site inspections, so those investigations. Then Salim on the Wastepreneurs project, just conscious of the time. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and honourable members, colleagues as well. Yeah, to the question raised by Honourable Murray, we were initially concerned that the Wastepreneurs project budget would actually be taken away, and this is really a follow-up from the initial work that was undertaken in the repair and refurbish sector of electronic goods. However, I'm actually very glad to announce that all the funds have actually been kept, and it will only be a delay in the start of the project. So all of it will be spent in the new financial year rather than part of it in this financial year and the second part in the next financial year. So there's actually no issue in terms of budget cuts affecting that project, and we still hope to train at least 15 of the parties in terms of getting the skills in terms of repairing and refurbishing electronic goods. Thank you.
Thank you, Salim. That was an important consideration when we were having to consider the emerging risk and the uncertainty, which projects did we have to pause until we had more certainty on in terms of the budget reduction, but which projects had to be retained, but could only then proceed in the following years. Thank you very much. There were the questions to Cape Nature. Chairperson, in terms of the cost of employment and the audit fees and the flooding. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, HOD. Just in terms of the reduction in EPWP grants, the question which ties in both from Member America and the Honourable Chair. No, in very simply put, as it won't affect this year, since we have already reached our target. We targeted an amount of 450 FTEs to be appointed, and we have already appointed 521. So we're okay for this year with the reduction in the EPWP grant. Then the other question with regards to the flood damage, I will ask the CFO to elaborate on that. That was from Member Maran. Member Maran's question in terms of the vacancies, I will talk about that. Currently, yes, we had to look, we are managing our vacancies very carefully, as we articulated when we presented our annual report as well. Currently, we have 123 vacancies, and every month we sit and we prioritize, and as soon as there is a vacant post, somebody retired, like myself soon, or somebody resigned, or contract ended, then what we do, we reprioritize. So of those vacancies, there's already 15 being considered as we speak, currently in the pipeline. So it is managed very carefully, and we have a distribution throughout the different programs, with program 1 being administration and governance. There's a few operations, obviously, that's in the reserves. We try never to compromise on our hands and feet on the ground and field ranges, etc. So we've got a breakdown the amount of vacancies per directorate. For example, as I said, program 1, there's 6. In terms of the scientific services, the biodiversity capabilities, there's 16. And of those, quite a few are currently being filled. Finance, there's a few. ICT, there's a few, etc. So I can provide you with a complete list, but that's very fluid. As I said, it's every month evaluated and being filled. In terms of the flood damage, which I asked our CFO to elaborate on, I just want to say that, Chair, you are correct regarding the uninsured roads and bridges. And yes, we have applied for funding from disaster management. We submitted our ask, and we have been told that our requests were linked with that of the Department of Infrastructure. So we are awaiting assistance in terms of our loss incurred, and the CFO will be able to provide you with the amounts, etc. Thanks.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chair. I think just firstly, with regards to Member Moran's question in terms of the reductions to our infrastructure projects, in the adjustment estimate document on page 203, there is a table which includes the projects that were budgeted for and the amounts for the financial year, and where the adjustments have been made, and the amounts are included in there. So for Demont Tourism, the initial appropriation for the year was 4 million. That's now we're postponing that project, so that's been adjusted by 4 million. For Volvo Kloof Tiger Flats, that was budgeted for 5 million, so that's been reduced by 5 million. Then Volvo Kloof Management Facilities was appropriated for 2 million. We're reducing that by 1.2 million. And Hamkas Kloof upgrade was 4 million. We're reducing it by 4 million. Some of those amounts have been reallocated to other projects where the needs are slightly higher. In terms of the flood damage, we followed effectively a 3-pronged approach to deal with some of the flood damage repairs. In terms of like the CEO mentioned, we've tagged the Department of Infrastructure for the disaster relief funding, number 1. Number 2, what we've also done is we've reprioritized some of our infrastructure funding to attend to especially the more emergency repairs that need to be done so that we can ensure business continuity of operations. For example, in the Cederberg region, because of the damage to the roads and the bridges, etc. So we've directed funding there so that we can at least get the reserve open for this December period. And there are contractors on site that are busy working on that. So we have allocated there. And the third approach was to use some of our reserve maintenance funding that we have available, which is built from our surpluses that we generate from ecotourism revenue, which we keep aside specifically for infrastructure maintenance. We keep it aside for emergencies. Obviously, it won't cover everything, but at least your more critical emergencies that we have for this financial year so that we can get our reserves opened and operational. So that we're doing from there. And obviously, the funding that we get from if we do get any disaster relief funding, that will go towards the more medium and longer term projects and more bigger projects, especially with regards to some of the staff housing facilities, management facilities that were damaged during the flooding and the storms that need to be repaired. But because those projects would be longer projects, which include the use of engineering for consultants and experts, that will hopefully we'll see what the disaster relief funding brings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes, thank you. Apologies. Yes, I'm unmuted. Honourable members, there is an opportunity for follow-up questions or new questions. Again, if you could limit yourself, if you could indicate by raising your hands. I see the hand of the Honourable America. You are recognised.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, thank you for the responses to the questions. I think I have a better sense now in terms of what is contained in the restructuring of the budget. Chairperson, I just want to raise, concern. I must just add that euphemistically, we refer to budget cuts as financial fiscal consolidation, but certainly, by all intents and purposes, we see that the budget has been cut not only in this department but in many of our other departments. I think one of the questions, Chairperson, that we've witnessed over the years now is the continuous rise in audit costs, regardless of the audit outcome, and the good governance records our departments should have displayed over the years. And because we, in effect, we operating in a very uncompetitive environment. We are basically just price takers, and it is something that I think that the Public Accounts Committee need to take up with the Auditor General, because it is not only this department, but many other departments and many of our municipalities are simply just, price takers, and there's no sort of consideration for the constrained fiscal environment in which we operate. Having said that, Chairperson, my new question is that if one look at the last slide presented by Mr. Fritz in terms of the reduction in targets, and one looks specifically at the last point on that particular slide, which is the reduction in efficiencies with regard to EIA processes. And mention was made about school infrastructure. So I would like to know, would the reduction in those targets perhaps have a knock-on effect on the completion of school infrastructure that is needed, because we know the pressures that the Education Department also are under in terms of rolling out school infrastructure. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. And Honourable Maran, it was me that muted you, so please unmute yourself and proceed.
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks very much for the responses to the questions, Chair. Just from my side again, out of the 280, we moved to 80 and then to 11, and reasons were given why. And out of the 11, Chair, my understanding is 3 has been filled. Just wanted to check, Chair, the other 8, whether we will manage to fill the other 8 within this financial year, Chair. Chair, but also maybe in writing that we get what these 11 critical posts are. Then, Chair, thanks to Cape Nature also for their responses. Chair, then I got a new question, or 2 new questions, Chair. Page 103, subprogram 2.1, intergovernmental coordination spatial. Funding towards the Sunfield Environmental Management, Chair. And I would understand, Chair, the details of this advertising, because 49,000 seems a bit excessive compared, for example, to the biodiversity spatial plan, which was going to cost us 2,000 rand. Just the difference between the two explanation there, Chair. Then on page 186, subprogram 3.1. Environmental Quality Management Compliance and Enforcement, Chair. Provision for increased litigation cost, 270, Chair. Chair, I just would like to understanding or explanation whether we are in litigation processes more that we have planned for and more that we have budgeted for. If not, Chair, do we foresee any new litigation processes, Chair, more than we have budgeted for? And then, Chair, just on the response, Chair, of one of the officials, when it comes to wastepreneurs, and we've now been told, because initially in this proposed appropriation budget, a reduction of 500,000 rand. Official said we can now probably say there will be no money. We will get the money will actually be there. Chair, I just want to understand, because it was also saying that in the new financial year, the 500,000 of the money will be there to deal with the issues that they needs to deal with. I want to understand, Chair, is the 500,000 rand or is all the money in the budget now, or is it not there? Is it the case that we, Chair, that we're gonna forfeit this money now and get it back in the new financial year? I would like to understand, because when one said that we're not going to lose any money, then my understanding is the 500,000 or whatever that amount is will remain. Or is it a case that it will go, we will get it back in the new financial year? Thanks very much. My apologies for my phone that's ringing, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you very much, Honourable Maran. Everything is fine. Over to you again, Minister or HOD.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, is it for me to conclude? Chair?
Sorry, there are still some questions to respond to.
Okay, let the HOD respond to that.
Right, in terms of the
Yeah, Magdalene.
In terms of the questions, in terms of the EI efficiencies, that's not currently an APP target. That was in the narrative indicated as performance that we would have brought into the new APP for 24-25, but we were undertaking to achieve that efficiencies this year in terms of that budget that was allocated. But when the uncertainty arose in terms of the budget, so we were protecting the fact that we need to at least make sure that we keep to the legislated timeframes and the 100% target that we currently have. And it takes a lot to achieve that. It's not just the time, it's the quality of the decisions, of course, that we need to ensure. So the EI efficiencies, that project is under pressure. We're still exploring all the options that's available, and of course looking at what would the allocation be in the new year, in terms of still wanting to achieve this in the province. It does relate to the school sites because it is also about the advice and the guidance and the administration of the projects, including what would then be the school sites portfolio. As mentioned by the Director Tia Jordan, we with our in-house resources, we're still providing that support because that is a critical area of delivery in terms of the mobile classroom and related delivery pressures that's on the Department of Education. In terms of Member Maran's question about the 8 posts, yes, it's 8 posts that's currently therefore vacant and funded. And yes, as with the budget now, in the adjustment budget confirmed, we're busy looking at filling those posts as soon as possible. And we can provide the list of posts. In terms of the Sandveld advertising, maybe to ask the CFO if he wants to expand, but it is in terms of the advertising cost, and in terms of the making sure that we're doing it in terms of the different languages. Some of the advertising and some of the processes are more intricate than others. And yes, we obviously look at reducing the cost. We look at all the different medium and avenues for us to communicate with the stakeholders, and to get the notices out and to get the comments back. The notices that must be gazetted are particularly costly because of the cost implications in terms of doing that in all 3 official languages. On the Wasterpreneurs, just that we're making the case to Treasury that that's an important project and that we want to proceed with that project next year, but the budgets for next year is not yet confirmed. So at this stage, we're still in the budgeting process towards the PG MTech 2 process, we'll be making the case for that project. So we're making the case for that project, but the budget's not yet confirmed in terms of the allocation for the 24 MTEF. Chairperson, that's the responses to those questions. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Gerber. Honourable members, I do not see any further hands. Ms. Nika, did we get an indication of any members of the public who would like to put questions as they are entitled to?
Chairperson, there has been no prior indication received from members of the public.
Good, and I also don't see any online, so thank you very much then. Honourable members, are you happy then for me to let the department and minister conclude? I take concurrence as, yeah, I see a thumbs up. Good, so Mr. Gerber, first you to conclude and then minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson, honourable members. It is a difficult time in terms of the budget pressures. We're prioritising the delivery for the citizens. So we're exploring all the measures possible. We're managing the pressures on our staff as well. We're not able to appoint all the staff that we in fact require to manage the pressures, but the staff, everybody is committed. We will continue to do the good work that we do and get through a difficult time in terms of the budget, and we value the input by the committee, the questions raised by this committee. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you. And you may also appreciate that I've already sent a question off to a member in the National Assembly to say, please, you know, it seems as if the moment the National Assembly votes less for the Auditor General, then obviously the invoices increase to departments such as yours. So let's hope that something good will come out of that as well. Over to you to conclude, Minister Bradell.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to the committee members, and thank you to the department for all the hard work. It's a difficult period for all of us. We don't like cuts, we don't like the shifts, but yeah, we under huge financial pressure, and we understand that we're part of the whole of government, so everybody must pull their weight. We also expect a difficult Christmas season. So I really hope that the committee members and the staff will get time to rest. And if you're fortunate to get those times off with your family, please enjoy it. And we'll be back early next year. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Gerber, all the staff. I'm not going to mention you by name, but be assured that we are acutely aware of the pressures that are out there, that particularly there's a spirit of lawlessness, there's a spirit of short-term thinking, so people do not look after the environment as we should do, and this all brings more and more responsibilities about for yourselves. Thank you for doing what you can, for using every cent as best as possible. And from my side, this is the last committee meeting with the Department of Environmental Affairs and Cape Nature for the year. We wish you all a wonderful festive season. For those of you that are in the position to go and rest and spend some time with your families, may you have a blessed time, and may you come back next year invigorated again, and continue with your excellent work. So thank you very much. You are welcome to leave the meeting now. We are just going to now consider the vote as the committee, and then obviously after that see if we can also consider the report on the vote. So thank you very much. You are welcome to exit. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good, thank you, honourable members. As some people are leaving the meeting, I hope you can hear me well still. So now we must, as a committee, express our view on vote number 9 in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill. And if I can just get a response from members on whether they support or not I recognize Honourable America.
Chairperson, I move that we support the vote. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other views, Honourable Murray?
Thank you, Chair. That we support as well.
Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. We've got 2 votes for, and my own is 3.
Chair.
Honourable Maran, yes.
Yes, Chair, I got another view than what's been proposed now. Chair, and the view maybe change when we come to the House, when you're going to deal with votes and statements. But for now, Chair, I wish not to support the vote. Also, Chair, that if my vote becomes my view becomes the minority view, that view be captured in the committee report as per Rule 19 of the standing rules. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Maran. The one thing that we can say about you is that you are consistent and quite predictable. So thank you very much. So, honourable members, it seems to me then that we have got a majority of support for the vote. And I wonder if I could ask Ms. Nikak to just quickly capture that for us in a document. Ms. Nikak, would you like us to just take a 1-minute breather?
It's fine, Chairperson. I will flight it shortly, the report.
Thank you very much. I see the Honourable Murray's hand is still raised.
Apologies, Chair, that is legacy hand.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask the Honourable Maran where he wants to get the funds for the Environmental Commissioner from.
That too, Chair.
Okay, but we won't ask that of him today.
Chair.
Thank you. Honourable Maran.
Yes, Chair. Whilst Serene is busy with the committee report, Chair, I've spoken to her earlier because I think there's another item that deals with the minutes that I'm not going to stay, Chair, for the adoption of the minutes. I'm actually busy driving with my wife from the hospital. I remember I told you about the 2 broken ankles. So we just came from the hospital on our way home because I want to be home when the next meeting starts. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much. I do note that we actually have the consideration of the minutes in the next meeting, or we can carry it over to the next meeting, I believe. But would you like to express a view on the minutes now? Are you happy for us to support?
Chair, on the committee minutes?
Yes.
The committee report?
No. I thought you were referring to the minutes that...
I refer to the minutes, Chair. No, I don't have a problem by supporting that minutes, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
But even when it comes to the report, Chair, I am willing to make a recommendation that we adopt the report because the report is a true reflection of the meeting that just took place. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Honourable Maran. So I'm just going to read the report then into the minutes, into the records. So report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning on vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill, B7 of 2023, dated the 30th of November 2023 as follows. The Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, having deliberated on the subject of vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill, B7 of 2023, referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view that it does not support the vote. Honourable members, I do recognise the Honourable America.
Chairperson, I move that we adopt the report.
Thank you. I recognise the Honourable Murray.
Chair, I second, but also noting that Member Moran has also adopted previously.
Yeah, no, you're not unilaterally then adopted. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. Honourable members, you have also heard that the minutes of our meeting of the 21st of November were circulated. Ms. Nika, can we consider those now?
Yes, Chairperson, we can.
Thank you. Would it be easy for you to flight them as well? Thank you, honourable members. I first need to say I appreciate the fact that this was only circulated yesterday, but I think we are all hopefully on the same page that we would not like too many items to stand over for 2024. And if we could therefore consider them, those minutes, we've already got support from the Honourable Maran. Perhaps if I could just ask Ms. Niekerk to just quickly scroll through that. Thank you. You've seen the attendance register. This is the meeting where we considered the advertisements and where we were provided with the presentation by the Department of Transport on the marine pollution bill. Good. Honourable America.
Chairperson, I move that we adopt the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it seems to me we've already got majority support to move. Any other views?
No,
Thank
Chair,
you.
mine is to support. I went through the minutes, Chair. I was present in the meeting. I support that we adopt the minutes.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much, honourable members. That then concludes that item on our agenda. Honourable members, we also have an opportunity for any resolutions that you would like to propose that might flow from our engagement with the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. Are there any such resolutions? I do not see any hands. So then I want to say,
Chair?
Yes.
Chair, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Just can we take the Honourable Maran and then Honourable Murray?
Yes, Chair, because I'm going to lose reception now. I have asked, Chair, for the 11 critical posts, Chair, that's vacant of its filled to be sent, Chair, but also the amounts of the 3 projects in Cape Nature. Thanks.
Good, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Honourable Maran. That will be captured. Then Honourable Murray.
Chair, I would just be interested to get from the department the list of planned waste drop near beneficiaries. I'm curious to know where these are based and if particularly they align with the city's, I think it's called 21 Hotspots program for the areas with the most dumping. Thank you, Chair.
Good, excellent. Thank you so much. Any other further resolutions? Thank you. Honourable members, you know that we also spoke at our previous meeting about a potential visit to the Karoo. And I can just say that there are a number of committees that also early in the new year are planning to have public engagements in that area, particularly in the area of Beaufort West. And we are looking at the possibility to perhaps combine our travel and perhaps during the day engage with, some of the role players that we have identified. And then in the evening, those that need to attend to the public hearings can do so. I find it a very neat solution, taking into account the financial pressures that also our budgets are under. And I just wanted to share with you that is the line of thinking that we are currently pursuing. So from that side, from that point, I want to say thank you very much, honourable members. Ms. Niekerk, is there anything else that you believe we should be considering before we close this meeting?
No, Chairperson, I think you've dealt with everything. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much, honourable members. Much appreciated. I trust we will be seeing you all in our next meeting, which starts at 12 o'clock. Safe driving to the Honourable Maran. And I hope that the visit to the medical facility was a positive one and that everything is going according to plan. Thank you. See you then at 12 o'clock, 12 noon.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.